Probably the number one question I'm getting asked on stream right now is your mustache real? And let me tell you, that is a secret I will take to my grave. The number two question I get asked is, what should I use my pack points on? Should I craft this card? Should I craft that card? What is a good strategy for this? So in this video, I'm going to talk everything pack points, and I'm going to give you a suggestion as to which cards to craft, which cards not to craft, and specifically what you should do based on what you care about in the game. So come along with me, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw! Let's do this. All right, let's start with the basics here. You get 5 pack points every time you open up a pack. This does not include promo packs, but regardless of how you open them, whether you are paying Pokegold, which is real life money, it's fake money that comes from real life money, or you are letting your packs open on their daily timers or the premium pass packs, all of them give 5 points. You are able to store up to 2,500 pack points here for Genetic Apex. Now, this might change for future packs, and the reason I say that is because these pack points are specific to Genetic Apex. You will not be able to save these for the next pack set that comes out. They are specific to the packs that you are pulling. So once you hit 2,500 pack points, which is 500 packs opened, you will not generate any more pack points. At that point, you should definitely be spending something, and it really depends on what you want. But there are a lot of cards that I think are highly sought after that would be great to spend your pack points on. It really depends what kind of player you are, and I think there are a few different routes you can go with this. You're either doing one of 3 things. You are trying to collect the most rare cards in the game, you are trying to finish your collection or finish secret missions, unlocking things like Mew and different emblems, or you're trying to make decks. I guess there's a 4th thing, which is you're just a crazy maniac and you'll do whatever you want, and I won't stop you. So, obviously, if you are the first, collecting the most rare things in the game, you are possibly spending money on the game, but if you aren't, you are probably saving as much as you can to get to 2,500 pack points to unlock crown rare cards. Let's briefly talk about what each rarity costs. So for a 1 diamond card, it's going to cost 35 pack points, or 7 packs that you've opened. A 2 diamond is 70, or 14 packs. 3 diamond cards are 150, or 30 packs. 4 diamond cards are 500 points, or 100 packs. Then we get into our stars. A 1-star card is 400 points, or 80 packs. A 2-star card is 1,250 points, or 250 packs that you've opened. 3-star immersive cards, Pikachu, Mewtwo, and Charizard, are 1,500 pack points, or 300 packs. And then finally, crown rares are perfectly there at 2,500 pack points, or 500 packs. I would say for people looking for the absolute most rare cards in the game, you will probably need to be spending to get to that amount of packs before a new set starts to come out. If you're playing totally free to play without a premium pass and you're opening 2 packs a day, you're getting about 180 packs before the rumored next set comes out, maybe as much as 240. There's also a possible mini set that is coming at some point. So again, if you're looking to be a collector of the most rare cards in the game, I think it's going to be a little tough without spending real world money. So funny calling it real world money, but that's what I'm calling it, I guess. Now, let's say you're looking to finish your collection. At this point, I think your decisions are actually pretty easy because you'll simply go to your card page, you'll look at what you do not have, you'll see the rarity of it, and you'll decide whether or not you want to spend pack points on that. This was just my personal experience, but when I was finishing my collection for the first time, and yes, I do pay money in the game, but when I was finishing my collection, the hardest cards for me to find happened to be 3 diamond cards that are specific to each individual pack. Again, if you are looking to complete your collection, I kind of think the path is laid out in front of you. However, what I would say is I wouldn't be spending a lot of your pack points on 1 or 2 diamond cards that you could find in those packs naturally. I would probably be looking for the 3 or even 4 diamond cards that are a lot harder to find. Now let's talk about making decks, which is the bulk of what this video is going to be about. The reason being, if you're collecting the full arts, you kind of know what you're looking for. If you really want it, you're going to go for it. And if you're trying to finish your collection, you don't really have much of a choice. If you've never pulled that 3 diamond Venusaur, you're just going to have to craft it or open a ton of packs in the Mewtwo line. Deck building, however, is a totally different story, and there are some cards that have extremely high priority because they work in a ton of different decks. Before we hop into the different deck priority cards, that's a way I could word that, I want to talk to you a little bit about some cards I would highly recommend not crafting, and there's a big reason for it. I'll go through a list with you here, but there are certain cards that appear in every pack in the game, and for that reason, I think their crafting priority is extremely low. So I will quickly go over a list with you of cards I would not recommend crafting. You're just going to find them eventually when you are pulling packs. I understand if one or two of them would be really ideal for a deck, but because they are so common and any pack you pull might have these cards, I would highly recommend staying away from them with your pack points. The no-no cards are Pinsir, Cottony, Whimsicott, Petalil, Lilligant, Ponyta, Rapidash, Heatmore, Heatless, Sizzlipede, Centiskorch, Psyduck, Golduck, Bruxish, Snom, Frostmoth, love Frostmoth, Blitzel, Zebstrika, Helioptile, Heliolisk, Pincurchin, Slowpoke, Slowbro, Woobat, Swoobat, Golett, Golurk, Sandshrew, Sandslash, Clobopus, Graplocked, Ekans, Arbok, Pawniard, Bisharp, Rattata, Raticate, Farfetch'd, Doduo, Dodrio, Minccino, Chinchino, Wooloo, and Dubwool. I also would highly recommend to stay away from cards like Meowth, Chansey, Clefairy, things like this that come in promo packs. Okay, now let's talk about the number one cards kind of to craft, and a few of them are going to be supporter cards. Supporters are awesome cards to craft, especially if you were looking to make a lot of these decks here. The biggest reason is how useful they are and how you can translate them to just about any deck you'll want to play. The other huge reason is they are actually very cheap. Every supporter card is 2 diamonds, so they only cost 70 pack points. The annoying thing about these supporter cards is you find them in different packs, and sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. Sorry, different boosters. So you find them in Charizard, Pikachu, Mewtwo, and again, sometimes it really lines up. For instance, Koga you find in Mewtwo, which is also where you find Wheezing and Coughing. That's great. Sabrina, on the other hand, is good for just about every deck in the game, and you find that specific one in Charizard. Lieutenant Surge you find in Pikachu, which is great because you play it with cards in Pikachu. However, Misty you also find in Pikachu, and water types are scattered a little bit throughout some of these packs. So I'm going to go through our supporters right here, and I'm going to give you an idea of the priority I would place on them for crafting them. Erica is found in Charizard, which is kind of a weird place for it. There are a lot of grass types in Char, but Venusaur is stuck all the way in Mewtwo. It's an interesting conundrum. If you are running a grass deck, I would say there's a high priority as far as crafting Erica. It's an extremely important card for grass decks, and you'll probably need to craft it, especially if you are not pulling from Char. Misty, as I mentioned a moment ago, Misty is in Pikachu. If you are playing water decks, I think this is an absolute necessity. Even if you don't need to have a super cheesy deck, Misty is incredibly powerful, and it's crazy not to put it in a water deck. I mean, it's free energy half the time. Blaine is in Charizard, which leads me to believe you probably won't need to craft Blaine. However, it's a great card. A lot of the cards you are going to play with Blaine, in fact, scratch that, let me take it back. All of the cards you would play with Blaine are also found in Charizard, making its crafting priority a little low. Koga. Koga is amazing, and you can make so many incredible decks with a Koga wall using Wheezing. You also can play this with Muck. I think Koga is one of the best supporters in the game. However, it is found in the Mewtwo line with all of the cards that go with it. Still, if you only have one of these and you're looking at playing a Wheezing deck, I would say your crafting priority is extremely high. Also, Wheezing works in so many different decks that this feels like a very high priority card to craft if you already have the other components of it. Now, if you haven't pulled anything in the Mewtwo line, I would not be crafting this at all, of course. Giovanni is found in the Mewtwo line, and Giovanni can slot into essentially any deck in the game. It gives you an extra 10 damage when you attack. That break point can be the make or break point in so many different matches. Giovanni is a top priority, absolutely. If you pulled no Mewtwo, you have no Giovannis, and you want to fill out your deck, it is a great call. Brock is in Pikachu, and Brock is extremely low priority. It only works for a couple cards, and they are all found in Pikachu. I think I would stay far away from Brock unless you really, really wanted to play that deck. Lieutenant Surge falls in this category as well. I would only consider crafting Lieutenant Surge is if you had everything you needed for a Lieutenant Surge deck and you just haven't been able to pull the cards. Lieutenant Surge and all of the cards surrounding it essentially are in Pikachu, so I would just be pulling Pikachu, and then if you really needed one, you could craft Lieutenant Surge. And then finally, I saved the best for last, and that is Sabrina. Sabrina is found in Charizard. If you haven't pulled a Sabrina, Sabrina is probably the best supporter card in the game, maybe outside of Professor's Research or Pokeball or something like that. Sabrina is a game winner. It is extremely powerful, and if you do not have it in your decks, this is probably like #1 card to craft in the game, in my opinion. I think this is a great call. It doesn't cost a ton, and it is a game changer for deck building. It's probably my #1 card to craft. Now I'm going to talk briefly about all of the EX Pokemon. This is a little tough because a lot of times you are pulling for these EX Pokemon in their respective packs. You know what you're looking for. Venusaur is in Mewtwo, Pikachu is in Pikachu, Charizard's in Charizard, Starmie also hanging out in Charizard. So you kind of know what you're looking for, but there are some that are a little tricky to pair with other decks because of where you find them. And there are some that are really meta, so I'll give you some basic ideas on each EX card. Venusaur has moderately high crafting priority. The problem is you will need to find the entire line in Mewtwo also, so you're probably going to be pulling Mewtwo packs. But a lot of grass cards are in other boosters, so there's some priority to crafting Veno. Executor kind of is in the same boat right here. I also love Executor for what it's worth, but at the same time, you're probably pulling for it in Charizard, so I wouldn't stress too much about crafting it. Charizard EX is extremely low priority. You're gonna just be ripping Char packs. If you're not ripping Char packs, you're not gonna build a Char deck. Moltres, on the other hand, is actually high priority for crafting. Yes, it is in Charizard, where you would expect it to be, but at the same time, it is the cornerstone of so many different fire decks that I think if you happen to have not gotten any Moltres EX, there is a consideration to craft this. Again, these are high value cards to craft, however, so you need to be very specific with what you choose to craft. Blastoise is only found in Pikachu, but I also think Blastoise EX is unfortunately not that great, and there are a lot of other water EX Pokemon that you find in other places. I think Blastoise's crafting priority is quite low. Also, you just got Lapras for free. It's basic. It's not as good as Blastoise, but it does a lot of the same kind of stuff. It's like high energy cost, water type. I don't know. I don't think you need to craft Blastoise, really. Starmie EX, on the other hand, is interesting. Not only because Starmie EX is amazing, but also because a lot of water types are found in Pikachu, a few are in Mewtwo, and this particular one is in Charizard. Water as a type is kind of all over the place in these packs. Starmie might be one that I would consider crafting just because of how dang good this card is. Articuno EX is found in Mewtwo, and maybe previously I would say there was some priority on it, but it is so incredibly similar to Lapras EX that you just got for free that I would say, no, don't worry about crafting this right now. Pikachu EX is amazing. You're pulling Pikachu to get this card. I get crafting it if you really want to make a Pika deck. It's a crazy good deck, one of the best, if not the best in the game. Zapdos EX is pretty good, also found in a lot of Lightning decks, but I don't have a high priority on crafting it. Again, everything Lightning basically is in Pikachu, so I would just be pulling cards from that pack. Gengar is a psychic type that is also found in the Mewtwo pack alongside Mewtwo. Gengar EX, I think, is a really cool card, but I think there's pretty low priority on crafting it. It's a stage 3. You would just be pulling Mewtwo packs for the possibility of making a psychic deck, and I don't think I would be crafting it early at all, especially because it's just not that competitively viable. You can only make a few decks with it. However, it is a really cool card. And I just mentioned it, Mewtwo. If you're making a Mewtwo deck, you're probably pulling from Mewtwo. I doubt you need to craft another Mewtwo EX. I would just keep looking for it. Same thing with Pika, right? For me, Machamp has pretty low priority. You find it in Charizard, but the Machamp line is kind of a mess. It's like fine, but I think there are just other cards that are fighting that are a lot better that you don't have to look for. Machamp feels awkwardly positioned in the game right now. Marowak, on the other hand, is found in Mewtwo, which is a weird place for some of the fighting cards. There are a few that are kind of found over there, but a lot of them are found in Pikachu and Charizard. So I actually think this is not a terrible one to look to craft if you would like a Marowak EX deck, which is a really fun deck. We then have Wigglytuff, which is one of the most interesting ones. Because it's a normal type, you can actually slot this into a lot of decks, and I think there's moderate priority to craft this. It's also only found in Pika. So if you're not pulling Pika, you don't get any of the Wigglytuff line. You may want to wait, however, until we have the promo card for Jigglypuff that will give you this kind of new Jiggly that will sing your opponents to sleep with 1 energy. Once we have that, there's probably a higher priority on building Wiggly decks. And last, but I don't know, maybe least, is Arcanine EX. It's an odd one. I have made a couple decks with this I like. By the way, thank you for everyone correcting my pronunciation on Growlithe. I found out I was saying that wrong. It's Growlithe. And Arcanine EX, I think, is cool, but it's also kind of there with Machamp. You know, it's just weirdly positioned in the game. It's maybe doesn't have enough HP, right? It can only take 1 hit from Mewtwo. It's like, it's a hard one. So I would say crafting priority's low. Now I want to talk about some specific cards that you find in different packs that are not EX cards, but I think have some great crafting priority. In the Charizard pack, you have Executor EX, but you also have the generic Executor, which is a really solid grass card. And if you don't have it in an Executor deck, I think you're missing out. It's a really powerful card. This one has been one of my favorites lately, and it is Articuno, not Articuno EX. It is also found in Mewtwo. It's 3 diamond, and this thing is really cool. It's a wall, kind of like the Articuno EX, but it has a lower retreat cost, and once you do power it up with energy, you can paralyze your opponents, which is really fun. Now for this next one, you will need to be pulling Charizard cards to really make this work at all, but if you're pulling Charizard and you're having a tough time getting Greninja, like I did, I think Greninja is a reasonable one to try to use some pack points on. I wouldn't craft Froakie Frogadier. Yes, they're relatively cheap, but I would save your points for the Greninja, which is a lot harder to pull. In the Mewtwo deck, there is one card that is so phenomenally important, I would consider crafting it, and that is Gardevoir. So you're going to be pulling the Mewtwo packs to not only get Mewtwo, but you're also pulling them to get Gardevoir, hopefully. If you need 1 additional Gardevoir to make your Mewtwo deck happen, I think it's a pretty reasonable pack point craft. There are a couple other cards in Charizard that I think you could definitely craft, one of them being Dragonite. The cool thing about Dragonite is there are a lot of different decks from different packs you can make with it. So if you're missing 1 Dragonite and you want to build that deck, I understand. Another one is Weezing. I talked about Koga earlier. If you need 1 card from the line, right? Like, let's say you're pulling Mewtwo packs, you've got a few Coughings, you've got one Weezing, and you've got a couple Kogas. If you need to craft an additional Weezing, that way you can make this Weezing wall and slot it into so many different decks, I think that's a pretty reasonable craft. And one that came out of nowhere recently, a card that I always thought looked cool, Primeape. Primeape is found in Charizard. If you have the Mankey promo and you really want to play Primeape, Primeape is 2 diamond, so it doesn't cost that much to craft. And Mankey Primeape right now is just awesome. I love it. Another line that you may want to consider crafting, because it's a little tricky, would be the Alakazam line. However, it's also very specific. It's kind of right there with Gengar for me, where I don't know if I would highly recommend crafting it. I think it's one of those, when you get it, cool, you can try and make some decks. So I hope this video was helpful. I know I get asked this question a lot, and I just wanted to give you a rough idea on the things that you should craft. Again, just an overview of my basic thoughts. It really depends on what you care most about. If you're trying to complete your collection, the answer is right in front of you. If you're trying to get the rarest cards, you probably need to be spending money on this game, but then I would hold out for the things that are the hardest to find, like crown rare cards. And also, finally, if you're looking to build decks, there are some that are just heads and tails above the others. For me, the supporters are paramount. I think Sabrina, Giovanni are insanely good, and these are the top ones I would recommend crafting if you don't have them yet. Misty if you're running water decks, Erica if you're running grass decks. The other supporters are great, but a little more specific, so you're probably pulling packs for them already. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you have any tips, please leave them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this. I love you all. I'll see you next time. We did it.